They say every wedding has a story, but this one had a secret that almost never came to light. Because exactly 1 hour before the wedding, the billionaire groom, Marcus Wellington, stood frozen in the hallway of his own mansion, staring at something that would change everything he believed about love. A shadow passed by, a whisper, a laugh that did not belong to him. And what he saw next, no one, not even his worst enemy, would ever believe. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a warning, a revelation, and a lesson that might change how you see trust forever. But before we get to that moment, that hour that shattered a man's heart, let me ask you, what would you do if the person you planned to marry was hiding something? What if the truth was standing right behind you, waiting to be discovered? And what if the betrayal didn't come from a stranger, but from the two people you trusted the most? Tonight we travel into the life of a man who had it all, and the woman whose secret threatened to destroy everything. But was it betrayal, or something far more complicated? The truth is never what it seems. Marcus Wellington wasn't like the others. His wealth came from discipline, late nights, and a mind sharper than a blade. Born into poverty in a small Michigan town, Marcus built his empire brick by brick: real estate, investments, technology. People called him lucky. They didn't see the scars, the failures, the betrayals that carved him. By 35, he owned properties across 3 states, had investments that generated millions, and commanded respect in boardrooms from New York to Los Angeles. But all he ever wanted was peace. Family. Someone who loved him for the man behind the money, not the zeros in his bank account. Then came Rebecca Hayes. She wasn't born into wealth. She grew up in a modest neighborhood in Atlanta, the daughter of a nurse and a schoolteacher. She was quiet, soft-spoken, hard-working, the kind of woman who carried strength behind her smile and grace in her voice. She worked as a school counselor, helping kids navigate their troubled lives, pouring her heart into work that paid little but meant everything. Marcus loved her simplicity, her warmth, the way she made him feel like a human being instead of a walking bank account. When she laughed at his jokes, he felt lighter than air. When she held his hand during his darkest moments after a business deal fell through, he knew he had found home. He proposed after 2 years on a quiet beach in South Carolina at sunset. She cried tears of joy. He promised her a future brighter than gold. Then there was Tyler, Marcus's younger brother. Bold, charming, troubled. He lived in his brother's shadow, admired him, envied him, depended on him. Tyler had dropped out of college twice, bounced between jobs, struggled with addiction for a time, and always found his way back to Marcus's doorstep when life got hard. Marcus never turned him away. He paid for rehab, gave him a job at one of his companies, offered him a room in his mansion when Tyler had nowhere else to go. Marcus believed in second chances, especially for family. And though Marcus never knew it, Tyler carried a secret of his own, one that would surface on the most important day of Marcus's life. It began on the morning of the wedding. May 14th, a Saturday bathed in golden sunlight. Guests were arriving in luxury cars, caterers running up and down the grand staircase of the mansion. The estate glowed with music, laughter, and promise. White roses lined every hallway. A string quartet played softly in the garden. 300 guests had flown in from around the country. This wasn't just a wedding. It was the event of the year. Marcus stepped away from the celebration to grab the wedding vows he had handwritten. He wanted this day to be perfect. Every word, every moment, every promise carved from his soul and laid bare for Rebecca. But as he walked down the private hallway leading to Rebecca's dressing room on the 2nd floor, he heard it. A whisper, a soft giggle, then a voice too familiar. Tyler, and then Rebecca's voice. Intimate, close, too close. Marcus didn't move. His heartbeat felt like thunder in his ears. He pressed his back against the wall, silently praying he was wrong. The vows crumpled slightly in his grip. Then he heard it clearly through the door. Rebecca's voice, strained and emotional. Tyler, we can't do this. Not today. Tyler's voice, lower, almost pleading. Then why did you call me here? A silence. Breathing. Footsteps. Rebecca again. Because I needed to see you one last time. Marcus's soul cracked. The room swayed. His hands trembled so violently he almost dropped his vows. His vision blurred. His chest tightened like a vice was closing around his lungs. He pushed the door open, just enough to see a sliver of the reflection in the large vanity mirror inside the room. And what he saw left him breathless. They were holding hands. Not hugging, not kissing, but holding hands like two people who had history and unfinished pain. And that was the moment Marcus realized this wedding was no longer the dream he thought it was. His entire world, the future he had built in his mind, the vows in his hand, all of it crumbled in the span of 5 seconds. He didn't storm in. He didn't shout. He didn't break anything. He simply stepped back and walked away, his footsteps silent on the carpeted hallway. But his silence wasn't peace. It was fire closing in around his heart, suffocating him with every breath. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Marcus walked outside into the sprawling garden where white chairs sat in perfect rows facing an arch wrapped in flowers. He looked at the guests arriving, air kissing each other, adjusting their ties and dresses. The decorations, the future he had planned, the life he thought he was stepping into. He asked himself questions that had no easy answers. Should I cancel the wedding? Confront them? Pretend nothing happened? Walk away forever and let them wonder why? His mother found him sitting alone on a stone bench near the fountain, staring at the ground, his shoulders slumped like a man carrying the weight of the world. His mother, Eleanor, a woman who had raised 2 boys alone after their father passed, sat beside him without a word. She had learned long ago that silence was sometimes the best medicine. Finally, she spoke. "Marcus, what's wrong?" He looked up, eyes hollow, bloodshot. "Have you ever loved someone who wasn't yours to love?" His mother froze. She understood immediately. Something terrible had happened. She placed a hand on his shoulder, but Marcus pulled away gently. "I need a minute, Mom. Just give me a minute." She nodded and walked back toward the house, glancing over her shoulder with worry etched into every line of her face. Inside the mansion, Rebecca was pacing in her dressing room, heart pounding against her ribs. Her wedding dress hung on the closet door, untouched. Her makeup artist had left 10 minutes ago, confused by Rebecca's sudden silence. Rebecca wasn't thinking about betrayal. She wasn't thinking about romance with Tyler. She was thinking about something else, something deeper, something she feared Marcus would never forgive. Her hand shook as she picked up her phone and stared at a text message she had drafted but never sent. An explanation, an apology, a confession she should have made months ago. Meanwhile, Tyler sat alone in the guest room on the 3rd floor, fists clenched, staring at the wall. He hadn't wanted this. He hadn't planned for this. But life has a way of dragging the past into the present when you least expect it. He thought about the years he had spent running from his mistakes, hiding behind his brother's generosity, pretending he had moved on. But the truth was he hadn't. And now, on the day his brother was supposed to marry the woman Tyler once loved, everything was falling apart. 3 lives, 3 storms, 1 hour. Marcus stood and began walking back toward the mansion. His mind raced. He thought about every moment he had shared with Rebecca. The late-night phone calls when they were first dating. The way she held his face when he told her about his father's death. The way she said yes when he proposed, her eyes full of tears and joy. Had it all been a lie? Or was there something he didn't understand? He needed answers. He needed the truth, even if it destroyed him. Finally, Marcus gathered the courage to confront Rebecca. He found her standing by the window in her dressing room, veil in hand, looking like a woman haunted by ghosts only she could see. The sunlight streaming through the glass cast shadows across her face. She looked beautiful and broken. Marcus's voice was barely above a whisper. "Why him?" Rebecca turned slowly. Tears pooled in her eyes, threatening to spill over. "Marcus, it's not what you think." He didn't speak. He didn't blink. His jaw clenched. His hands hung at his sides, fists balled tight. So she told him. Everything. The twist. Tyler wasn't her lover. He was her ex-fiancé. They had been engaged 5 years before Marcus ever met her. Rebecca had been 24, Tyler 26. They were young, reckless, madly in love. They planned a small wedding, a simple life. But Tyler started struggling. He lost his job, started drinking, fell into gambling debts he couldn't pay. He became someone Rebecca didn't recognize. One night, he disappeared. No explanation. Just gone. Rebecca spent months trying to find him, calling hospitals, police stations, friends. She was heartbroken and alone. Eventually, she had to accept that he was never coming back. She moved to a new city, started over, rebuilt her life piece by piece. Until Tyler saw her again. On the day Marcus introduced her as his girlfriend at a family dinner 2 years ago. Tyler had been sober for 18 months by then, working at one of Marcus's companies, trying to rebuild his life. When he saw Rebecca walk into that room, holding Marcus's hand, his world stopped. But he said nothing. He buried it. He pretended he didn't know her because he didn't want to ruin what his brother had found. And Rebecca did the same. Not out of love for Tyler, but out of shame and fear that Marcus would never understand. She thought if she ignored the past, it would stay buried. But it didn't. 2 weeks before the wedding, Tyler reached out to her. He sent a message apologizing for everything he had done, for abandoning her, for the pain he caused. He said he needed closure before she married his brother. Rebecca agreed to meet him once, just once, to give him the peace he needed and to find her own. That morning, in her dressing room, they held hands not as lovers, but as two people saying goodbye to a chapter that had haunted them both. The hand holding wasn't romance. It was closure, a goodbye to a man who had once broken her before she walked into a future with a man she truly loved. Rebecca knelt before Marcus, her voice trembling. I should have told you. You deserve the truth. But I swear to you, I chose you. I will always choose you. Tyler is my past. You are my future. I was saying goodbye to him so I could walk toward you with nothing holding me back. Marcus's world spun. His heart ached. His mind screamed. But deep in his heart, beneath the anger and betrayal, he knew she wasn't lying. He could see it in her eyes, in the way her voice broke, in the way she reached for his hands like they were the only thing keeping her from drowning. Marcus asked only one question, the only one that mattered. Do you still love him? Rebecca shook her head with trembling certainty, tears streaming down her face. No, but I needed to forgive him so I could love you fully. I needed to let go of the anger, the hurt, the wondering what went wrong. I needed to close that door so I could walk through the one you opened for me. Marcus took her hands. For the first time that day, he breathed. He understood something powerful, something that would change him forever. Sometimes people hide their past, not to deceive you, but to protect the future they're building with you. He pulled Rebecca to her feet and wiped the tears from her cheeks. I wish you had told me sooner. I wish I didn't have to find out like this. But I understand, and I forgive you. Rebecca collapsed into his arms, sobbing with relief. Marcus held her, his own tears falling silently. The wedding started 1 hour late. Guests whispered, wondering what had happened. But when Rebecca finally walked down the aisle, Marcus saw a woman who had chosen him, not out of convenience or fear, but out of healing, clarity, and truth. And when they said their vows, every word felt heavier, more real, more sacred than either of them had imagined. Marcus also spoke with Tyler later that evening, away from the celebration. It was painful. It was honest. Tyler apologized for keeping the secret, for not being strong enough to tell his brother the truth. Marcus was angry, but he also saw his brother clearly for the first time, not as a failure, but as a man trying to survive his own mistakes. They didn't hug. They didn't make grand promises, but they agreed to rebuild trust slowly, carefully, and that was enough. That day, Marcus learned that love is not about perfection. It's about courage, honesty, second chances, and choosing each other even when the past tries to pull you apart. Now let me ask you, if you were Marcus, what would you have done? Would you have called off the wedding, forgiven her, or walked away forever? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your heart. And if you were Rebecca, would you have told Marcus about Tyler from the beginning, even if it meant risking everything? These are the questions that haunt us, that make us human, that remind us how complicated love truly is. And if this story touched you, stay with us, because the next tale I'm about to share makes this one look simple. Subscribe for more powerful stories, stories that challenge the soul, heal the heart, and remind us that life is full of lessons waiting to be told.